Thank you in advance for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. This is a budget hearing, a meeting of the electors, a public hearing with regard to the 2023-2024 budget of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. First, I'm going to start by asking Superintendent Wimmer to confirm that this meeting was properly posted in accordance with Wisconsin statutes.
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you. She indicated it was, so we will proceed. So just a few words about tonight. So this is not a school board meeting. The purpose of this meeting, though, is to afford the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed budget that was set forth by the school district. So the school board can hear your feedback. So my name is Chris Swigert, and I'm the chair of the school board of West Bend School District. So what we'll do first is we need to approve our agenda. So the agenda is in your packet. I believe it's on page 3 of your stapled handout. Alternatively, it's on the screen. So the agenda that's set out is a quick overview of procedure. Then we're going to ask Mr. Andy Sarno to present our proposed budget. Then we'll have the hearing, which is the opportunity for individuals to share their comments, and then we will adjourn. There's a second meeting scheduled for tonight at 7 o'clock. And that is the annual meeting of the voters, where we'll actually vote on some proposed resolutions. But this first meeting is actually the public hearing. So with that, what I'd like is, since this is a meeting, you folks, unlike the school board meetings where it's the school board members who vote, this is your meeting, and so you get to vote. So first, we would need a motion to approve this agenda. Is there anyone who'd be willing to make a motion to approve this agenda? Thank you, sir. And what was your name, please? Stephen Roberts. Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. That's a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second? Second, and if you could state your name, please. Cameron Merkel. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve this agenda. Any additional motions? Any other discussion? Hearing none by voice, if you would please, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. That motion carries. So we have an approved agenda. So again, just an overview of the procedure. What we're going to do is we're going to hear again from Mr. Andy Sarno. He's going to talk about the proposed budget. Then we will have the hearing portion. And just as I will walk through that in greater detail when we get to that point, but any individuals who wish to speak with regard to the budget will be given an opportunity to do so. They'll have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes at the podium to my right, to your left. And unlike a school board meeting where you can come and participate and discuss really any topic on the agenda or not on the agenda, for this particular hearing, your comments would need to address the budget. So we'll get more to that when we get to that point. So next, I will ask Mr. Andy Sarno to come forward to present the proposed budget. Mr. Sarno.
Thank you, President Zweigert. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of the community, and as Chris had shared, this really is for you. Really look for that feedback, because that is what the school board will use in consideration when they're setting the final information towards the end of next month. This evening, and let me jump over to my PowerPoint. This is a statute-driven presentation this evening. Some of the information is required. Some of it is making sure that we share full information with members of the community. But just wanted to make sure that we share this because it really is for you. It's for the members of the community. We called the meeting to order. We had an approval of the agenda. Thank you so much for the motion and the second. I will be sharing a little bit of information. I'd also like to point out at registration, there is a budget packet, and so please make sure you have one of these, and whether it's tonight with the public comment A week from now, later this month, prior to when the board sets the final budget levy and mill rate, reach out if you have any questions. So there's this information, and then there's even a QR code towards the back that allows you access to a little bit more information, a little bit more detailed about the different fund structures and things like that. After this, there's an opportunity either for public comment. There are buff handouts in the back. If you'd prefer, rather than speaking, you're more than welcome to fill one of those out, and we'll make sure that the board gets copies of those for review and consideration of setting those final financial pieces. A little bit of information, housekeeping this evening, making sure that you're aware this was information as of September 6th. It's a little while ago, but when we back up from this evening, getting the information to the newspaper, publishing it in the newspaper 10 days in advance, having discussed this with the board, school board earlier in the month, it was information, and things are going to change, making sure that we're disclosing that there are some assumptions, some calculated estimates. We don't receive final information from the state until October 15th. And at that point then, on October 23rd, at the regularly scheduled board meeting, the school board will take formal action on a levy, mill rate, and the final budget. And then just always keep in mind as well, I call the budget a living document. Sometimes our spend plan changes, and what sounds really good right now, we amend that plan, and there would be an amended budget at some time in the spring into the early summer. Making sure that the budget booklet, and that's what I'd shared here earlier, the mission and vision, we align all of our spending to that. The agenda of both of these meetings, we have our budget and the financial highlights, that QR code that I'd mentioned, take a look at that. I shared the budget publication with some notes in there, and so make sure that you take a look at that. We organize it by fund, we have to total it out. That's a document that we're required to use that format. We're a governmental agency. We have to do that. It discloses all the information in summary format. I have a preliminary revenue limit worksheet. Again, it's as of a couple of weeks ago. It will be updated, but we're highlighting certain pieces of information that are important to know. And then as well at the end, we have a listing of our school board members as well as our cabinet level administrators in the district. So our mission: preparing all students for college readiness and career success, and our vision is excellence for all. And the purpose behind this, sharing this tonight, is making sure that as we're spending approximately $100 million, that it aligns with that mission and vision of the district. We need to make sure that we're engaging various stakeholders, that we're making decisions based on informed information. A little bit of information, and again, this goes back to that, we have a revenue limit worksheet. It's a Department of Public Instruction document that we use every fall, but taking a look, because one of the important pieces is which students live within our geography. As we go back to 2014-15, just 10 years ago, we're just under 7,000 students. We're now able to count 56, almost 5,700 students, and it's important to remember this because it's the students that drive our revenue. The state allows us so much money per student on a 3-year average. So I wanted to share that history and what that graph looks like over the last 10 years. Taking a look at our property values. Why our property values are important is, first of all, it's the one-legged stool with how much we're taxed. That's the determining factor, but it also determines how much state aid the state is willing to give us, how property rich or property poor you are per student. That's a measurement of how that's calculated in a 3-tiered model. But as you can see, and this is not untypical across the state, especially within the last few years, last year we saw a 14 to 15% increase. This year we saw about a 12.5% increase, and that's the state average. Last year we beat it just slightly. This year we're just under it. And so what that means is across the state on average, that's good news, because again, if we would have outpaced that property value across the state, we'd be receiving less money from the state. Therefore, we'd need to tax more to the property owners, excuse me. This is where I'd shared, again, about a 10-year history we have here, and over the last couple of years, we have seen a slight increase. The legislature has infused more money. Our property values have kept pace with the state on average. We do have declining enrollment that impacts all of that, but the state has funded, over the last couple of years, more money towards the education, towards the general education of our students. The last remaining piece, and we do have a Finance 101, and there's a document. We won't update it for this year. Last year's is on the district's website. We have a finance website with lots of different information, all of our past audits, our Moody's rating from our last debt issues, a lot of information. But one of the last pieces, when we understand what's our revenue limits, how much money is coming from the state, how much do we need to levy, and then let's calculate that percentage. So this is the tax levy, the dollar amount. As you can see, and we're now done with our levying for debt. That's been finalized, and those last dollars are done. But that dollar amount, again, has been decreasing. Number one, because of that previous slide where the state has provided additional finances. And then secondly, because our debt has been reduced, we have the ability then to ask the taxpayers for less money to support our school district. In addition to declining enrollment, which we saw in one of the earlier slides, we continue to right-size the district. So then we have that mill rate, which is the percentage. So what's the taxation rate per $1,000 of assessed value on average across all pieces of property? For a few years, again, going back about 10 years, $8.65. We had a period of years where we were promising to the community to hold that tax rate flat, address the outstanding debt of the district. We were holding flat at $7.97. Last year, again, we levied a little bit less because we finalized our debt levy. Our property values went up. The state gave us a little bit more money, and we were able to decrease that taxation rate or the percentage down to 637. A preliminary estimate at this point in time, I'm estimating $5.13. Now, your property values most likely did go up reasonably significantly across the district, again, about 12-13%. But the mill rate in and of itself is going down. The overall levy is going down that I'm estimating this year. A little bit of additional information that we're required, and this goes into some of that statute-driven fund balance. We'll talk a little bit about our debt, how much debt we could have statutorily. That's always shared at this meeting. I have to share our other post-employment benefits trust. That's some of our pension through the district. I have to share that. We have to share some of the community services funds. These are programs outside of a typical school day. And then as well, I want to disclose some of those estimates and assumptions that we're making that the board will take action approximately a month from now. So fund balance. It is not money in a bank account. It is the equivalent of assets minus liabilities, just like a business with their balance sheet account. It's seen as debt agencies as a sign of financial health. We have school board policy that surrounds it. It says 14 to 18% of our operational budget must be unassigned, and I'll show you a graph that we're just at that, just above that 14%. And then as well, the important part of this is that cash flow that we need, because money coming in does not always equal money going out, but that fund balance is what allows for that cash flow to happen, as well as some emergencies in case a boiler were to break, something that's not budgeted, that's a large expenditure. It allows the board the opportunity to be able to address that without making reductions. So it serves a variety of purposes, and it's very important for the district's financial health. We have an unassigned fund balance as of June 30th of 23. This is unaudited numbers of 14.5%. Again, that board policy was 14 to 18%. It's down very slightly. The dollar amount actually went up, but the overall budget went up slightly, so the percentage just dropped by 0.3%. We do have in a reserved or a committed account a Jackson Trust that was asked of by the board years ago of $1.5 million. We have self-funded health and dental insurance that we have $3.2 million of reserves in case there's fluctuations in those costs for the health and dental. And then as well, there's other fund balance designations that were brought to the school board. That's a part of the audit and the acceptance of that in December, January, when that final audit document is presented to the board, those fund balances, and I anticipate that that will be this winter for this last June 30th at our fiscal year end. I always like to share a positive S&P rating, Standards & Poor's rating. We're currently a AA negative. There's different brackets, and we're in that top bracket. We had a rating here a couple of years ago, and we did a refinance of some debt, but very proud of that. That's something that it's not just the district's financial health. They go into the village of Jackson and the city of West Bend and look at the economics and the housing, and there's a lot of different variables that go into that, but this is something that our communities should be proud of with that AA negative. So I wanted to be able to share that today. Look, the debt that we have, so there's non-referendum debt that the school board has statute authority to enter into, as well as the referendum debt, which is asking the community to go into debt for specific projects. So as of June 30th of 2023, the fiscal year end that we just had here a few months ago, the non-referendum debt, we had $1 million of outstanding that we will be paying off this year. No interest on that, it's a zero interest loan. Our referendum debt, there's $7.355 million of outstanding. We have $439,000 of interest left on that. Very low interest. A couple of those were utilized qualified zone academy bonds, special interest where there's 0% interest actually for that. And so a little bit of interest with that. But when we take a look at about $8.3 million of outstanding debt, $440,000 of interest, we do have that $1 million from the non-referendum defeased, meaning it's in an interest-bearing account right now. So we have about $8 million of outstanding principal and interest. We're done levying debt based on our calculations at this point in time. The last of the debt will be retired, or the last payment. We can't make payment on those until they're actually due, unlike a personal mortgage that you might have on your home, which you can pay off at any point in time, but we will be done in April of 2026. Coincidentally, and if you caught that property value from a few slides ago, we are now a $7.7 billion school district. That's all of the value within our district. That's an estimate at this point in time. We'll get the final information on October 15th. Statutorily, we're allowed up to 10% of that value. So technically, we could be $766 million in debt. And if you go back to that previous page, $8.3 million, that's the full amount. It represents 1.1% of our authority, or a 0.11% of the actual property values. So not many districts can say that. This was in response to be able to address the community's request 4 or 5 years ago to be able to pay down that debt, and we've been able to do that. This is that other post-employment benefit trust. So this is one of our designated funds. It's one of the funds that's in the publication. But at this point in time, July 1st of 2022, so a year ago, we had $6.1 million in an interest-bearing account. We contributed last year $103,000. That was actually retiree payments. Interest revenue that was earned last year, and this is a requirement to disclose this, was $225,000. Leaves in expenditures for last year was 1.2. That was a payout for those individuals that qualify for this, leaving a remaining balance as of June 30th of 23 of $5.2 million. We did not contribute towards this last year. We decided that there was flexibility that was needed bridging into this fiscal year due to the timing of when the transfer had to happen. But we're back on track, as you'll see in this year's budget that we are proposing. There's about $1.6 million that we'll be transferring into this to make sure, because this is an outstanding liability that we need to make sure that we're addressing. We're current on all the requirements. There's a biennial actuarial study. We make sure that we disclose this to the Department of Public Instruction. We're all in accordance. Everything is appropriate with this fund. Our Fund 80, this is everything what I call is outside of a typical or a regular school day. The programs that we have are the Badger Middle School co-curricular offerings, about $120,000. Silverbrook Intermediate co-curricular offerings, about $33,000. We have our school liaison officers with the city is $190,000. Our community partnerships and engagement is $133,000, $134,000. And then as well, the groups that qualify for free rent for outside facility use, all of those expenses, some of the pool costs related to, again, things outside of the typical school day, about $123,000. So Fund 80, again, disclosing those programs is important, a requirement, but about $599,000 of anticipated expenditures for the current year for everything outside of a typical school day for our students. It's important to disclose as well, Badger, Silverbrook, making sure those co-curriculars, those are welcome for homeschooled students as well as private school students. And I know at least at Badger so far, we do have students that are taking us up on that. So it's important that we make sure that we disclose that and share that and invite those schools and those homeschooled children into our co-curricular offerings. A little bit of information as of tonight about the budget. So a balanced budget is in front of us for the general fund. There are other funds, such as our nutrition fund, Fund 50, where we operate our lunches, our breakfasts. We're purposefully operating as a deficit to spend some of that fund balance, but there are fluctuations in various funds. But the general fund, the one that we need to focus on, that's being presented, is balanced. At this point in time, we've identified all the revenues and expenditures that we're aware of at this point in time to the best of our ability. That will change as of October 23rd. In fact, I think it's Friday, October 13th. I'll receive final information from the Department of Public Instruction as well as the Department of Revenue. We can finalize everything and make subtle tweaks where we need to, and we'll make sure that that information is appropriate and accurate for the school board to take action on October 23rd. A little bit more information. So it's important to know that, again, we have requirements with how we keep track of the revenues and expenditures. It's called our chart of accounts. Everything is in accordance with the state as well as the federal requirements. We do have a levy estimate. The dollar amount, the levy is anticipated to decrease by 9.3%. Last year it was a decrease of 8.8%, so we're starting to see that trend. The mill rate is anticipated to decrease by just under 20% to, again, that graph that I'd shared, $5.13. Last year, it was approximately the same percent decrease at $6.37 on average across all properties. We are using the federal ESSER dollars to balance the 2023-24 budget, even more so than last year at this point in time. And that's what the state had told us to continue to do. Even though there was a revenue limit increase, we are allowed more money this year compared to last year. Since we're frozen, we are still using the ESSER dollars to balance our budget. And then another important piece is, this is multiple months that comes ahead of time. We will actually begin the 2024-25 budget in November. So the board's going to take action on October 23rd. We'll take a breath for about 1 week, and we're going to start on that next year's budget right away in planning and making sure that we gather the appropriate information. We have the published document, and it was hard to miss. I think it takes up about 2/3 of a page, but it's a requirement. It's called a Class 1 notice. We have to have it in the newspaper at least 10 days in advance. It was in the newspaper on September 15th. And it's at this point in time that I would ask President Zweiger to come up and see if we would like to initiate any public comment. Okay. Would you be okay if did you need anything up, or am I okay to put Tim's timer?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Will you run the timer, or do I run the timer?
It's up. Are you okay? It's a start more set.
Oh, I think I can do that.
Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Senro, thank you very much for presenting the information with regard to the budget. So we've now reached the point where we ask for your feedback. And anyone who wishes to comment has an opportunity to speak at the podium here at my right. And so, again, your opportunity to speak really should be focusing on the budget specifically. So anyone wishing to comment, residents will be given 3 minutes to speak. For an eligibility purposes, and I know that the folks here, eligibility has been verified, but just for the record, every U.S. citizen, age 18 and older, who has resided in the district for at least 28 days is eligible to vote at this meeting. And any elector who wishes to speak should line up, and I see right there by that podium, and I see our first participant. And what I'll do is ask you to state your name and your address for the record. And again, you'll be limited to 3 minutes per turn. I've got a visible timer here for you. Also, I believe that is it. I'm just checking my notes here. 3 minutes per turn. And our first speaker, you're going to run the time. Fantastic. We have an IT expert who's going to help me run the timer. So we get it right. This is good. Sir, if you could please speak your name and your address for the record, please.
Jason Penterman, 1440 Buttercup Court, West Bend, Wisconsin, 53090.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Penterman. And your 3 minutes start now.
So tonight I'd like to talk about the specifically vouchers and their effect on our budget these days. So vouchers allowed qualified families to fund one or more child's educational experience at an approved private school, and the taxpayers fund these vouchers. Okay. The voucher property owners who pay taxes towards the West Bend School District are not informed of the amount of money that they pay to support vouchers. Sorry, the rising cost of the voucher levy will reduce the amount of money available for other WBSD budgets. Now, I requested these numbers from our Chief Financial Officer, Andy Sarno. So the voucher levy in 2015-2016, we started at $271,274, and it's steadily going up, and in 2023-24, it's estimated to be $4,949,000, and $4,949,000, so it's about almost $5 million. And these last 4 years, it has increased by about 27.9%. So I projected, and at 27.9%, this year almost 5 million, next year 6 million, 25-26 we're at 8 million, 26-27 we're at 10 million, 27-28 13 million, up to almost 17. In 29-30 we're going to be almost at $22 million for vouchers. And he said that right now our total budget is about $100 million. So, and since we're paying about $5 million, about 5% of your taxes might be going towards vouchers right now. But you don't know. I don't know. Voucher tax levy transparency. WBSD residents must ask that WBSD work with City Hall to inform taxpayers on their property tax bills exactly how much they are paying for vouchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penterman. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak tonight regarding the budget? Going once, going twice. All right, so we have reached the planned end of this budget hearing. There's another meeting to come. Let me just double check here. Yes, go ahead. Sure. One moment, we'll have the agenda also put up, but I believe you wish to.
Yeah, would that be okay?
Absolutely, go ahead.
For clarification, and we had one of these last year, I just wanted to make sure the vouchers and the numbers are accurate. It is an estimate for the current year. We're estimating that dollar amount at this point in time, but vouchers are exempt from the revenue limit. So making sure that we know that if the vouchers were 2 million versus 5 million versus 10 million, We have our revenue limit, and that's added on top. So that's outside of the revenue limit, so we have the ability to levy for that, and it all is public dollars, public taxed dollars, but it is outside of the revenue limit. And the board has been supportive of levying for that purpose. I wanted to share that information. Fair? Okay, thank you. Absolutely. Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Any other individuals who wish to speak regarding the budget? All right, hearing none, we've reached the end of this budget hearing. The annual meeting will follow shortly, but to conclude this meeting, it's appropriate to receive a motion to adjourn the meeting, followed by a second. Is there anyone who wishes to make a motion to adjourn this meeting? I see a hand raised. Yes, could you state your name for the record, please? Sally Hoyer, thank you. Is there a second? Second, and if you could state your name, please. Cameron Merkel, thank you for the motion and the second. We have a motion and second to adjourn. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. So this budget hearing is adjourned. We will reconvene in 10 minutes for the annual meeting. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to the 104th Annual Meeting of the Electors of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. Before we begin, I'm just going to well, first I'll introduce myself. I'm Chris Swigert, member of the school board and school board president. What I'd like to do first is just to verify that this meeting was properly posted in accordance with Wisconsin statute, so I will ask Superintendent Wimmer to please confirm that.
Yes, it was.
Great, thank you. She's indicated in the affirmative. I'd also, at this time, ask that you rise and please join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As I had said at the earlier meeting, this is not a school board meeting, but it is a meeting with regard to the district. So the purpose really of this meeting tonight is, well, two things. First of all, Superintendent Wimmer is going to give a general update on the state of the district. And then also the board had proposed 2 resolutions that we'd like your feedback on. And so that's the other reason for this meeting. So with regard to ground rules, the ground rules were on a yellow sheet which talk about voting and procedures for this meeting. But actually, we're going to be trying something a little bit different when it comes to the resolutions. So last year, we had robust attendance at the meeting, and there were a number of suggestions as to how to make it more efficient, to make sure individuals' votes counted, that we were able to count them properly. So we're going to try ballot voting this year on those. And so we'll look forward to your input with that. And so thank you for allowing us to try that new method. So I'll give more instructions as we get to that point. So next, we need to elect a chairperson for this meeting. And I've kicked it off, but I'm happy to serve. But if there is anyone else in attendance who wishes to serve, so I'll open it first for nominations. Yes, please.
I'd like to nominate you, Chris Swigert, to be the chairperson for the meeting.
Thank you. Shelley Krieger, thank you. You've nominated me, Chris Swigert, to serve as chairperson. Is there a second? If you could please state your name for the record. Tracy Well, thank you very much. We have a motion and second for me to serve. Are there any other individuals or any other motions for anyone else to chair the meeting? Going once, going twice. All right, all in favor of Chris Swigert chairing this meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I'm very glad to serve as chairperson of the meeting. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. And I should have mentioned that on page 3 of your stapled packet, you can see the agenda. We also have the agenda on the screen. So the agenda would include the State of the District report from Dr. Jennifer Wimmer, our superintendent of schools, and then 2 resolutions to consider, one with regard to tax levy, one with regard to board member compensation, and then we would plan to adjourn. So with that, I would need a motion, please, to approve this agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to make that motion? I see a hand raised right there. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Could you state your name for the record? Jill Corbett, thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second? You could, Chad Temez, thank you, Mr. Temez. Dr. Temez. Motion and second to approve this agenda. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We have an approved agenda. So with no further delay, I will turn this over to Dr. Jennifer Wimmer, Superintendent of Schools, with her State of the District report.
Thank you to not only our president of the school board, but this evening's chair. I'd like to just kind of give a recap around our school and district, just to orient you. You know, it's exciting to serve in a district with such a rich history. The 104th gathering of the Electric is something to be really excited about and to be proud of. These are the communities that we serve. We are geographically large, and then you can also see that we cover quite a bit of square footage with multiple school buildings and other sites, such as maintenance buildings, office buildings that we maintain with well over 200 acres. We also look at the students that we serve. You can see the historical enrollment, which is not membership. That's a little bit different count in how you count things, but this is who we expect to take attendance on every day when we greet students. You can see we're slightly down, but holding steady. We know that as a district, through our work with monitoring our own enrollments, as well as our work with the UW-Madison Population Lab, that we should be falling around 5,500 students. We are watching that bubble come through. We're prepared for that, and we'll kind of settle that district. That bubble is kind of right in the middle of Badger right now. So that gives you a sense of enrollment. We follow a continuous improvement model with our focus on student learning, as well as student and staff engagement and other pieces such as safety and security and effective and efficient operations. If you follow our school board meetings, you know that we've done comprehensive reports at the end of the year in attention to multiple components of student achievement in preparation for setting goals for short and long term ahead, as well as our student engagement and behavior. Again, those were comprehensive at the end of the year, culminating all that data and moving us into this year to set goals for ahead. So I would urge you to go back to our board docs where you can see all of our historical meetings. You can see that, you can watch that and see those slide decks of those presentations. I always like to celebrate our graduates who are with us. And you can see out of the 515 graduates last year, 431 of them complete a survey that's supported by our schools and some state questions around. So once you graduate, what are you off to? You can see that the vast majority of our students are pursuing post-high school education, whether that's technical school, 2 or 4-year college. They're going into some type of program. You can also see of note is that our students earned almost 3,000 college credits while on our doorstep just at Marine Park. That's not counting the additional credits they can earn through multiple UW agencies, also with our support. Didn't cost our students anything. They're actually starting to explore and refine their interests in advance of their graduation. So something to be proud of. You can see other students are going right into employment or training or other internships, as well as military, and a certain amount are undecided at the time of the survey as well. So we're really proud of the opportunities we're providing for our students, from our earliest learners with our Head Start program all the way through their graduation, and preparing them for any path that they should choose beyond. We have lots of student highlights, so you can see just a couple here. Whether it's academic, athletic, in co-curricular areas, or just I learned to tie my shoes. Generally right around that couple months into kindergarten. Or a big one is I learned to open up my milk carton all by myself at lunch. That is highly celebrated, let me tell you. But we love to celebrate our students, their accomplishments, and we do so quarterly in what's called the Vantage Point publication. So any community member can sign up to have this delivered right to your inbox as well. Every Wednesday we do a district news, and then this is our own quarterly publication that just gives kind of highlights for our district and our students. So I would encourage you to follow that as well as any of our social media outlets so you can stay informed and help us celebrate along the way. In addition to some amazing students, we also have an amazing staff. You can see here it's a mix of certified staff, whether that's teachers, counselors, anyone with a specialty license serving students, additional instructional support staff, and other staff. For a total FTE. That's how we report. It's the full-time equivalent. So it's a mix of part and full-time people together. So you can see just under 800. You can see that staff number reducing. We did not have layoffs. We do that through attrition, retirements, those kinds of pieces, as you see that we're responsive to the enrollment that we have. A great thing to highlight about our staff is their experience. So you can see many years with us in the West Bend School District, and some of them also veteran educators when they come to us. We want to be positioned to recruit and retain highly qualified staff because we know that that's important to have amazing people, no matter what their responsibility or role in the district is, in front of our kids every day. We're also really proud of our retention rate, almost 94% returning to us. So don't take our word for it. We also work with UW-Milwaukee, who provides a third-party survey for our staff. Just some highlights. We do a more in-depth in fall around our staff engagement and some of these pieces, but just to preview, we're above the state in the quality of our feedback that our staff receive, above the state average for principal leadership, for trust, and for teacher collaboration. So those are key points that we're really proud of. Again, 77% job satisfaction rate, which is up from last year. It's not easy work to serve every day, and we're always looking for ways that we can work together to create higher satisfaction, but really proud that almost a 94% retention rate of our certified staff on that return. And again, our staff are highly qualified and accomplished, just as our students are, and some large recognitions we do each spring. If you follow us, we highlight them. It's an exciting time we get to go in, and it's a surprise for the staff members, but we have Support Staff of the Year. You can see them listed here. And then we also partner with the Rolf's Education Foundation, who recognizes certified staff teachers in the field annually as well. So we're just really proud of so many people. This is just a sample of awards that our staff receive. In addition, our staff really work hard on things such as grant writing. Our student service team has really done some work to highlight. Over the last year, they have written for and received multiple grants that you see here: alcohol and other drug abuse program grants, education for homeless children and youth, and mental health grants. So really proud of the work that they've done to come together to serve students in addition to just academics. So again, just a few staff highlights. We try and do those as well along the way during the school year. So I would, again, encourage you to follow our social media and sign up for those publications. Between last year and this year, we take on quite a few projects. You can imagine once we kind of get ready for summer. We identify a few buildings for summer school, but then we're getting ready in other buildings. So you can see just some of the statistics for our technology department. You can imagine serving that many students, that many adults in an organization, what we need to do, but they really got to work and did some great projects. You'll see each year we bring those projects as well as our facilities projects before the board right around December or so, because we've got to have lead time on ordering, getting things in play, or scheduling work, so you can follow that. So just some really nice projects that were executed on behalf of technology. They also have a ticket system, and we were noting they receive hundreds of tickets a day. They're really a responsive group that keep everything moving for our students and staff. In addition, you can imagine when we see less activity at the schools, we get into high gear on some projects. So we've done some updates to some HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, some exterior door replacements. You can imagine some roofing that goes on annually, as well as masonry and asphalt. In addition, some security system components. They started going in last year, whether it's update to door monitoring, cameras, etc. We continue to do that, and a little bit of modernization at the high school campus, specifically with elevators, things of that nature. You can imagine there's lots of other things that go on, but just some big projects. I think the largest task for us this year, we started foreshadowing this last year, is really right-sizing the district. We talked about that enrollment. We talked about being effective, efficient in operations, and we've also talked about and done some work sessions regarding the state of our facilities. Recall that we had a referendum in the past that did not pass, and really talked about paying off debt. You can see us doing that, but really getting our arms around the funding for capital improvements, kind of that deficit that we're in right now around having more projects than we have money for, and how do we prioritize that. We did some external work. There was some community partners, but the board has really explored, and we're partnering with EUA, as well as Findorf was just named as another partner, to deliver a comprehensive assessment of our facilities so we can create short and long-term planning, and then understand kind of what those needs are, develop preliminary solutions, and then figure out really the phasing of those and what kind of solutions we can make work. So In that work, you hear a lot about referendum, you hear a lot about those things, and people always ask me that. We are where we are. We're analyzing. We've made no bones about, it would take a lot of money for us to turnkey every school and do all the work that's needed, and that certainly is a mechanism. But I also try and do in my Wednesday updates, where is this work, where is it heading, where is it not heading? So right now in front of us, EUA and Findorf will work with the board in fall and winter. We've got December targeted as the deliverable for the comprehensive report. Thus far, we've done some walkthroughs in our facilities in summer for that comprehensive assessment. Then they've done additional walkthroughs now while school's in session. They want to see those buildings in use by students so that we can capture the most efficient, effective operations. They're doing additional site visits now. Our staff are being surveyed for feedback and input around what is it they need educationally in their space, where we might not be hitting the target currently, so that we can capture that feedback. Once we have that deliverable of a comprehensive report and we do a thorough presentation, we'll be doing engagement with our students, staff, families, and community to understand where we are and start talking about that solution aspect. So we look forward to that work. It's really robust. We look forward to seeing that artifact of that report when it's delivered. But we would encourage all of our community members to stay engaged all along the way, but also look for those events that we will have specifically leading us into winter so that we can kind of frame where we're at and where we want to be as a district. So with that, I will turn it over to the actual annual meeting section.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Wimmer, for your report. We now move on to consideration of proposed resolutions. So there are two resolutions that the school board has developed and is asking for your input on. And so one, it has to do with the tax levy. The other has to do with board member compensation. And for those of you who have come to meetings in the past, these are the standard resolutions. So here's how this will work. What I will do is I will read through the resolution, and then we'll pause and see if there's a motion and a second in favor of the resolution. But before we take a vote, there's opportunity for discussion. And with that discussion, if anyone wishes to comment or discuss the item, we'll invite them again to the podium here on my right. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. And then at the conclusion of the comments, we will take a vote. And that vote will be by ballot. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that point. So let's start with the first resolution, resolution number 1, which addresses the tax levy. I'll read it. Resolved by the electors of West Bend Joint School District number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that there be and hereby is levied on the taxable properties within the confines of the district taxes in the amount of $39,345,736, including $1,800,000 to be applied to the Capital Projects Fund, $488,000 to be applied to the Community Services Fund, and the balance of $37,057,736 to be applied to the General Fund for the 2023-2024 school year in accordance with the recommendation of the school board. And the administrator notes underneath are not officially a part of the resolution, but that this is what the action taken by this group here tonight is advisory and non-binding, but that input is very, very critical for the school board. So with that, I will pause to see if there is a motion in support of this resolution. Will there be a motion in support? I see a hand raised. Yes, sir. Could you state your name, please? Mark Allen, thank you very much for the motion. Is there a second? I see a second in the front. Yes, and you could state your name for the record. Tracy Wells, thank you. We now have a motion and second in support of resolution number 1. So we'll now pause for any discussion. If anyone wishes to comment, I invite you to the podium up here on the right, and we will receive your comment. Anyone wishes to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? All right, that being said, the motion and the second stand. So now we will take the vote. So, as I mentioned before, last year we had really robust attendance and we received a number of suggestions as to how to improve the voting process. So we're going to try something new. What we're going to try is you were given some ballots in advance, and so what we're going to ask for you to do is to vote on resolution number 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to come to the front and drop your ballot in the ballot box. If there is anyone here who has who wishes to have assistance in bringing the ballot up front, please raise your hand and we will send forward some volunteers to help. So just so I have this right, let me just confirm with administration that for resolution number 1, you should pull out your orange ballot. Do I have that correct? Orange ballot. All right. So if you would please vote, and you can remind me if those ballots are marked yes, no, or how shall they signify?
Circle yes or no.
You circle yes or no on the orange ballot, and then please feel free to walk in front and drop it into the box. Thank you. So I'll ask for the volunteer now. Volunteer. So you want me to, so I'll read and say yes, and then do you want them to stay silent unless there's a problem, just verify it as it goes? How do you want me to do that?
I think it's going to be overwhelming.
They can just witness.
Just witness, should I
Yeah,
count rather
just have
than
a
read it?
witness.
Should I just do it now?
We separate them into 2 piles.
Yeah, so we're going to say, so we're just going to witness it. right?
Yeah,
Rather than
and witness.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I say we witness because it's.
We'll try it.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, if anyone wants to serve as witnesses, you can raise their hand and go, we're going to have like 5 witnesses. Sure,
Yeah, who
right?
cares? Yeah.
Okay, we're going to like at least 1. This was announced to folks. There's going to be a part 2.
Right.
All right, so as the voting concludes, I'm going to ask for at least 1 volunteer. We can have more than 1 volunteer to come forward, because what we're going to do is we'll, on the side here, count the votes. And we actually wish for at least 1 witness. So, I see a hand. Please come forward. Is there anyone else? We can have more than 1. Is there anyone else? I see one here. Please step forward. All right, we have 2 witnesses. Anyone else who wishes to serve as a witness, come on forward if you do. What we'll do is we will we'll count and tally, and we'd like you to witness that so that our crowd knows that it is a valid vote. Great, thank you. Would you bring them forward?
Ballot box already?
I'll just pause and verify, has everyone cast their vote who wishes to? All right, thank you. We will verify the vote.
Yeah, you're standing there watching. Okay.
You're counting or I'm counting? You count I watch?
How about that? You can do that, sure. We're going to separate into piles. How's that? Separate them into piles.
If you've ever had one of those interviews where you're driving away and you're like, gosh, I wish I would have said that. The one thing that I didn't say during the budget hearing about a half an hour ago, this allows, again, we speak about revenue limits. This is the 30th year of revenue limits. They're put in place back in 1993. They thought they'd last a few years. And then they thought they maybe would last 10, and it's been 30 years. The increases are the changes. There's been 1 year that the revenue limit did decrease, but it's statutorily driven as a part of the biennial budget. So we really monitor that, and again, that's what we're looking for in November when we start that next budget process. But this piece, the language that's in front of you right now with the current information that we have, this maximizes the revenue limit. We're levying to the maximum allowable authority within the revenue limit. So there's a couple pieces like the Community Services Fund, but if there was any debt that was still out there, that's outside of the revenue limit. So, but we're levying to the maximum allowable authority with this. So, cheap entertainment while they're counting, so.
Thank you to everyone who voted and for volunteers. The vote is unanimous. 100 votes cast, all yes. Thank you very much. And so resolution number 1, we will give that feedback back to the board. So thank you for that. We move then to resolution number 2. And I'm very dangerously going to try to advance the slide here.
You know what, Chris, it's
Yep. Nope.
we'll hit escape real quick.
Go right ahead. This is why we need IT expertise.
There we go. Resolution 2, and then I'll do a slideshow. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. We're on to resolution number 2. And just as last time, I'll read it. We'll ask for a motion in a second. Opportunity for anyone to step forward. We'll do the ballot vote, same as last time. So, resolution number 2 regarding board member compensation. Resolved by the electors of West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that the salaries of the elected members of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, to be fixed at the sum of $5,000 per year per member and $5,200 per year per officer. And as in the administrator notes, these rates are unchanged as compared to last year. Be it further resolved by the electors of West Bend Joint School District Number 1 that board members be paid their actual and necessary expenses in traveling outside the school district in performance of duties, including mileage at the rate established from time to time and by board policy, which rate shall not be greater than the maximum amount allowed by the Internal Revenue Service as a business deduction. And that, when duties require school board members to be absent from regular employment, they may be reimbursed for actual loss of earnings in an amount per day as established from time to time by board policy. And Superintendent Wimmer, perhaps you can confirm that this wording is also unchanged compared to the prior year. Right. So this is consistent with prior year. So with that, is there a motion in support of resolution number 2? Yes, thank you. Motion in support. Could you please state your name for the record? Stephen Roberts, thank you, sir. Is there a second? Thank you, yes? Janice King, do I have that correct? Thank you. We have a motion and a second in support of this resolution. So at this time, we'll hold discussion. So if anyone wishes to come forward to address the crowd, I invite you to the podium to the right side. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? We have one individual who wishes to speak. Thank you. And when you step forward, you know how it works. So we'll have the timer put up for you, sir. If you could pause for just one moment. Right, and for the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Mark Allen,
Okay. and your address.
1111 Poplar,
Very
West
good.
Bend.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes start now. Please proceed.
This is the third year that this motion has come forward. The question I have is, can it be recrafted so that we don't have to keep doing this? Nothing has changed the reason for this. As I understand it, it has to do with how this is formulated. Is that a correct assumption?
We'd have to get legal opinion. It is required that we do it. What forum?
So state statutes do require that this annually be considered. But I think we can take back to the board advisement around whether or not there's a different way to craft this going forward. But this is something that requires annual presentation to this body.
As I understand it, compensation has to take effect after an election. So that, the question I have is why couldn't this be, the now and evermore until we change it?
I see. So in other words, be a standing resolution that once it's adopted, unless and until anyone requests a change, that it not come back to this body for annual consideration.
Yes, sir. Can we modify this and vote on that?
Right. I would say, I like that idea. What I'd say is we would need to get outside legal opinion to make sure that that approach is compliant with Wisconsin statutes. And so what I would promise is that the board will consider that. I'd ask that we perhaps vote on it this time, but we will bring that idea because I certainly agree with the idea of efficiency. So we would bring that idea forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address or comment on this proposed resolution? All right, hearing none, there was a motion and a second in support of the resolution, so it's time to vote. So just like last time, if you would please take out this time, I believe it's the green ballot, is that correct? Green ballot, vote yes or no, and please drop it in the ballot box.
See, you learned. They'll step back over.
Great, okay. Yes, sir.
You know it. It's big time.
Right.
I think it.
He's like, I learned only Excel formula just for this.
That's like me.
Wasted it.
That's okay. I think it's the same thing. We had a board meeting today, and I had this presentation like for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And totally ran out of time. I had 30 seconds. I'm like, well, here this is. I'll just talk to you in between meetings.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I had this whole thing that was artistic. It was so
Yeah.
perfect. So far, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's different
It's,
for accounting, but this is
I had said I believe we should really have
for boxes.
4 boxes and just have them like because we're visually monitoring and just have some up there so that they're
Yeah, you
not
can have
so
two,
long.
right, so some
But
sort
other
of
than
chart.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for accounting, if there was some, I don't know if there's a different system in a way, but it's not so bad.
It's
Just straight
not-
down, putting the tiles.
Yeah.
So we start by just like straight putting the tiles yes and then the second people can
Yeah.
just straighten the count.
Yeah.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, no, and then tell me what you want me to do. I heard you.
Oh, I guess we can switch back. Yeah, absolutely. Escape and. All right. No, it's so same as last time. It's fine. No, it's all good. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just confirming, is there anyone else who wishes to vote who is not? All right, we will count the vote.
Second reading.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for voting. I have the total. 93 voted yes, 1 vote was no, and 1 was marked as abstain. So that motion carries. And again, this information goes back to the school board ultimately for their consideration. So thank you for that. So we've discussed resolution number 1 and resolution number 2. So we've reached the end of our planned agenda. And so next on our agenda is adjourning. So may I have a motion in favor of adjourning? Yes, and Cameron Merkel, correct? Thank you. Very good. We have a motion in support to adjourn. And a second, yes? Chris Weston? Motion and a second. We have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. And that concludes the 104th annual meeting of the electors of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. Thank you for spending your evening here with us. Have a good night.